Geeks are sexy, and you're listening to Geek Therapy Radio.
Welcome back to Geek Therapy Radio. I am still Johnny Hemberger, your mental curator for this evening, or whenever you're listening to the show via podcast. Just a reminder, this entire show this week is being recorded onto cassette tape. So what you're listening to right now is the beautiful fidelity like you don't remember from cassette tapes. The other little side note is this week I did my first news report on our sister station, News Radio 740 KTRH. I did a techie nerdy news report on Waymo's driverless cars. Google owns Waymo, and just to touch on the subject, Google's driverless car outfit Waymo is in the coming months is going to go completely driverless. Now, usually driverless cars aren't anything new, but driverless cars up until what Waymo's doing, you still had to have a human behind the steering wheel just in case. But what Waymo is introducing over the next few months is nobody behind the steering wheel, nobody in the driver's seat. They're rolling out a new service to early riders members that they can choose to take trips around Phoenix, Arizona in a completely driverless car. Initially, there will be a Waymo employee in the back seat with the early riders of this driverless car, basically with a bail button. With an abort button. So if something's going wrong with the car or whatever, he can hit a button and the car pulls over and puts its flashers on and gets out of the way of traffic or whatever. But then eventually, no employee in the car. Just the driver is going to be completely driverless, and Waymo says that their first commercial service will be a taxi service. By the way, and I promise I said this segment we're going to get onto what speakers and audio setup should you buy for your computer or for your home theater. We'll get onto that. I was going to say a quick note about driverless cars. I think there's only been 3 accidents in the United States or elsewhere involving driverless cars, involving cars without a driver. And all 3 of those accidents were caused by the human driver of the other car. The driverless car has not malfunctioned yet and caused a crash itself. The accidents that driverless cars have been involved in on public roads have been other drivers running into the driverless car. Now you might be thinking, wasn't there a case where Tesla was in driverless mode or automated mode and the car slid under an 18-wheeler, killing the occupant, killing the driver of the car? Yes, that's true. But that Tesla Model S isn't a driverless car. What the driver was supposed to be doing in that vehicle was putting the car into automation mode, but he's still supposed to be aware and present and basically have his foot touching the brake in his hands close to the wheel just in case. But he didn't do that. He completely, I don't know what he was doing, but he completely trusted the automated systems of the Tesla Model S, and basically the 18-wheeler, the color of the 18-wheelers, the trailer of the 18-wheeler was roughly the same color as the sky. So the sensors on the car couldn't distinguish that there was a trailer coming up, that there was a trailer in front of it. So the car didn't stop because it thought it was just clear sky in front of it and, crashed into the trailer. Regardless, that's driver error. The driver of that Tesla should have been alert and seen it and not been looking down or doing whatever he was doing. He should have been paying attention. So, on to the actual subject of this segment. Speakers, or an audio setup. What audio setup should you buy for your gaming computer or your home theater? And I'm going to use right off just initially the computer aspect of it, the computer side of this argument. So you spent all this money on your new gaming PC. $1,000, whatever. $1,000 is that's a good price point to build a very baller status gaming PC. Usually, audio is the afterthought. You're just going to plug in a pair of whatever speakers or headphones into the computer and away you go. But if you care about audio, if you care about what goes into your ears, we spend so much money on what goes into our eyes that we just forget about what goes into our ears. So if you are wondering, what speakers should I buy? I think initially what a lot of us do is we'll go out to Best Buy or whatever and we'll buy just some computer media speakers, those two 2.1 systems, the two mid-range speakers and then the subwoofer. We just plug that into the headphone jack of our computer and away we go. And we think that's good enough. And maybe for a lot of us it is good enough. If you don't really care about music, if you don't really care about the audio, then I guess that's good enough. But if you actually care about your audio, then you're probably going to be looking at companies like Bose, and you're probably going to be looking at investing in a DAC, a DAC, a digital audio converter, to get pristine audio from your games and your music and your lossless audio files and all that kind of stuff. So you're looking at spending money. Should you buy a sound card in 2017? Should you buy a sound card, a dedicated sound card for your PC? I don't think so. I really don't. Here's why. They're not going to be that great. It's really not going to be great, compared to what I'm about to tell you about that cost roughly the same amount of money. And the speakers, should you spend that pretty penny on some high-end Bose speakers or high-end Harman Kardons or whatever Kilpesh or whatever speakers you're going to buy for your computer system? Should you spend the money on those brands thinking that you're going to get the best possible audio fidelity? I argue that you shouldn't. I shouldn't say that you shouldn't do any of those things. I'm just trying to offer up an alternative to those things. Here's what I would do, and here's the case I'm going to make. And again, apply the case I'm making to PC gaming audio. Apply this same theory to your home theater setup. First, I'm going to start with the DAC, or the digital audio converter. Should you buy some sort of high-end audio converter from, I don't even know, any number of boutique audio sellers? Should you buy one of those? I would argue no. A good bet would be, for the same amount of money, maybe a little less, maybe a tad bit more, but just around the same amount of money, maybe the exact same amount, as far as your DAC is concerned, consider getting a audio interface, a USB audio interface or USB Type-C audio interface from a company like Tascam, a company like M Audio, a company like Presonus. All of those brands, that audio interface is a professional audio interface. It's what recording studios use. It's basically smaller versions of the big, huge audio interfaces that recording studios use. So for the same amount of money of buying a digital audio converter from whatever company, you can go with a tried and true recording studio brand like Tascam or M Audio or, like I said, Presonus. I'm not mentioning Apogee because Apogee is going to be super, super expensive. If you got the money, go for it. But yeah, so get yourself, even for $100, a USB audio interface from Tascam. That's going to give you your fidelity. That's going to give you your 24-bit or higher, 24-bit, 192 kilohertz sampling rate. And it's professional grade. It's what they use in recording studios and project studios. So I would argue to go for that. Plus, if you plug a microphone into it, when you're gaming and you're talking to other players online, the quality of your voice is going to be spectacular. So yeah, I would argue a USB audio interface instead of a DAC from whatever company. You're going to spend the same amount of money, and it's what the professionals actually use. Now, as far as speakers go, I would argue that, and this can really be applied towards your home theater, especially. But I'm talking about as far as a gaming PC is concerned. As far as speakers go, instead of going out and buying those Bose, instead of going out and buying those Hammond Cardons or whatever, they're good speakers. I would say no to Bose, really, but other boutiques speakers, what's in my car? Bang & Olufsen, stuff like that. I would make a case that you shouldn't get those for your home theater and you shouldn't get those for your PC. Instead, think about, again, recording studio equipment, recording studio monitors, not monitors like your screen, your PC screen, but audio monitors. You know what we use in the radio station here are Mackie HR824s. Those are professional grade, industry standard recording studio monitors. I've got a pair myself. They're sitting in storage. A pair of those, two of those, cost about, you could probably get them for about $1,000, which is a lot. And so I'm not saying you should especially get a pair of Mackie HR824s. But if you go down to the price point where you'd get those Bose speakers or you'd get higher end speakers, look at companies that make look at the actual recording studio monitors. So for about $300 for a pair, you can get a pair of KRK Rocket 5s. Those are actual recording studio monitors. For less money, for $150, you can get a pair of M-Audio AV42s. That'll sit very nicely on your computer desk and sound amazing. Those are actual recording studio monitors as well. They are reference grade monitors. They're self-powered. They have amplifiers built into them. You don't have to buy a separate amplifier for the speaker. Essentially, just plug in those M-Audio AV42s into your USB audio interface, or plug those KRK Rocket 5s into your USB audio interface. And you know what you have right there? You have a listening setup that is identical to what the content creators used to make the movies you're watching, to make the music you're listening to, and to make the games you're playing. When the audio engineers and the sound team, sound designers are making that video game, they are using recording studio monitors. And now you have the same kind of monitors on your desk, and you're watching your movies and playing your games with the same speakers, the same audio setup that the content creators used to create it. So essentially what you're listening to when you're playing the game, and what you're listening to when you're listening to music, and what you're listening to when you're watching a movie, you're hearing what the director of the movie heard. You're hearing what the producer of the music heard. You're hearing exactly what the designers of the game heard. So when you're getting speakers, why not get the actual things, get the actual speakers that the creators used to create the content? Because again, you're not spending a lot of money versus getting something off the shelf at like Best Buy or something, getting a big box store item. You're spending the same amount of money on the audio setup. You're just getting the real studio monitors. You're getting the real reference quality audio, pristine, perfect audio that the content creators created the media with. So that's my argument. Let's say you're going to go out and you've dedicated a budget to your audio setup for your gaming PC. You said you're going to go out and spend $300 for some good audio. Now, with that money, you can either go out and buy an all-in-one, off-the-shelf, like 5.1, whatever bullcrap system you want to buy for that money, or you want to go out and buy a DAC or whatever. Nope, spend the same budget. If your budget's, like, again, as a reference, $300, get a USB audio interface for $100 from Tascam. It's a very respected company, very high quality components in there, very high playback rate, like I said, 24-bit, 192 or higher. And then, so that's $100 right there. Now you have $200 left over. Get you a pair of, like I said, M-Audio AV42s, or maybe something a little bit bigger, maybe something a little bit better, for around $200. Something else from M-Audio, maybe something else from Rocket. I can't think of any Rocket products, ROKIT products that come around $200. Maybe get some used Rocket 5s for $200 for the pair. But yeah, that's my argument. Whatever your budget you've set aside for your audio is, consider getting the actual professional equipment, the actual reference monitors, the actual audio interfaces that the creators are using. And you can do it for a budget, like I said, around $300. If you're going cheaper than $300, man, yeah, if you're going cheaper than $300, I would say probably a good set of headphones, and then still that USB audio interface. I'm not saying that DACs are bad. I'm not saying that a DAC from like Hammond Kardon or something is going to be bad. It's not going to be bad. It's just not. They color the sound. You're not hearing what the creators heard. You're hearing way too much bass, way too much treble. That's what you're hearing. You're not hearing a perfectly flat representation of all the frequencies, and that's what you want for good crystal clear audio. But again, let me put an asterisk by this whole conversation. Get whatever you want. I'm not your boss. If you don't care about audio, just plug your headphones. Just plug $20 headphones into your computer and you're fine because you don't care. But if you do care, just consider the school of thought of getting actual recording studio reference grade products in your signal chain, in your audio signal chain. That's all I'm saying. I'm Johnny Hamburger. That was Geek Therapy Radio. Go to Geek Therapy Radio on Facebook, Geek Therapy Radio on Instagram, and Geek Therapy Radio on YouTube, and follow and like and subscribe to all of that. I should get more active on Twitter. My Twitter is Geek Therapy KPRC on Twitter, so at Geek Therapy KPRC on Twitter. They just went up to 280 characters so that I can type more, but I never use Twitter. Maybe I'll start using it more now. More Geek Therapy Radio coming up. More tantalizing topics coming up. I can't talk. Did my brain just stop? Let me see what we're going to talk about. There's some stuff. It's going to be good. So stick around. More Geek Therapy Radio to come. Do not go anywhere.